What happens when one of the most powerful women in media sits across from the most misunderstood man in music history? In 1993, Oprah Winfrey interviewed Michael Jackson in what became the most watched TV interview of all time, a moment that promised clarity, but instead fueled decades of controversy. Years later, she returned to his name, not to honor it, but to stand beside his accusers in Leaving Neverland, long after his death, and long after he could defend himself. And she didn't stop there. Oscar winner Monique says Oprah betrayed her by platforming her abusers. 50 Cent calls her out for targeting black men while giving silence to powerful white predators. So now people are asking, did Oprah use her platform to tell the truth or to tear down legends? Is she a symbol of empowerment, or has her influence become dangerous? In this video, we're diving deep into the Oprah-Michael Jackson interview, the Leaving Neverland backlash, and the growing criticism from Monique, 50 Cent, and beyond. You might think you know Oprah, but after this, you might never see her the same way again. This is the story of media power, betrayal, and the legacy of those silenced. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. For decades, Oprah Winfrey has been hailed as a media icon. A woman who broke barriers, inspired millions, and became a billionaire by building an empire rooted in empathy, storytelling, and truth. But behind the legacy of empowerment and emotional breakthroughs, there's another story. A story about power, control, and what happens when influence turns into a weapon. In today's video, we're diving into one of the most controversial chapters in Oprah's career, her interview with Michael Jackson, and how it may have helped shape public perception in ways that harmed, rather than helped him. We'll also explore the growing backlash Oprah has faced in recent years, from Monique to 50 Cent, and why some people now question whether Oprah Winfrey is truly for the people, or just for the headlines.
When you all first became famous?
Yes.
So it wasn't what it appeared to be to the rest of the world, all of us. I remember I was a little black child, wanted to marry Jackie Jackson, your brother. So, I mean, to all of us, we thought this was the most wonderful thing in the world. Who wouldn't have wanted that life?
It is wonderful, and there is a lot of wonderment in being famous. I mean, you travel the world, and you see things, you meet people, you go places. It's great, but then there's the other side.
In 1993, Michael Jackson was at the height of his fame and the height of controversy. The king of pop had been dominating charts for over a decade, but whispers and speculation about his appearance, behavior, and personal life had begun to overshadow his artistry. Enter Oprah Winfrey. In a move that stunned the media world, Michael invited Oprah to his famous Neverland Ranch for a rare live interview. It was the first time in 14 years he had spoken to the press, and he chose Oprah. More than 90 million people tuned in. At the time, it was the most watched interview in television history. The interview touched on Michael's painful childhood, his skin condition, vitiligo, the abusive treatment by his father, and his complete denial of plastic surgery beyond. A nose job. It was raw. It was vulnerable. It was supposed to be a moment of healing, but for many fans and critics, something felt off. Oprah's tone at times came across as skeptical. Rather than comfort or reassure Michael, she pressed him on deeply personal issues, some of which he clearly wasn't comfortable discussing. The media the next day exploded with headlines. But instead of focusing on his pain or his skin disease, much of the coverage focused on his so-called eccentric answers and how strange the interview made him seem. Some argue that Oprah's interview, rather than humanizing Michael, only deepened the mystery, and in doing so, laid the groundwork for the ridicule and public humiliation he'd face for years to come. Betrayed after death. Leaving Neverland. Fast forward to 2019. Michael Jackson had been dead for 10 years, but his name was back in headlines. This time because of the HBO documentary Leaving Neverland, which featured graphic accusations from Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Despite both men having previously defended Michael in court under oath, and despite contradictions and holes in their stories, Oprah chose to host a special follow-up interview with them, titled After Neverland. This shocked many of Michael's fans. Oprah, who once called Michael a gentle soul who claimed to be his friend, was now giving a massive platform to his accusers without any counterbalance. To the world, it seemed Oprah had switched sides, and millions saw it as a betrayal. Petitions against Oprah's special flooded the internet. Hashtags like Unmute Oprah trended on Twitter. Even Michael's nephew, Taj Jackson, publicly blasted her for what he called a stab in the back. Why? Would Oprah do this? Why support a documentary many saw as one-sided, unverified, and profit-driven? Critics say it's about control, about staying relevant, about aligning with trending narratives, even at the expense of the truth. Nika, blackballing and the Hollywood machine. But the controversy doesn't stop with Michael Jackson. Another bombshell came when Oscar-winning actress Monique came forward, not just with claims of being blackballed by Hollywood, but with allegations that Oprah played a key role in that isolation. Monique said she was punished for refusing to promote the movie Precious overseas without additional pay. The director, Lee Daniels, and producer, Tyler Perry, sided against her. But Oprah? She went a step further. Oprah invited Monique's estranged, abusive family members onto her show without her knowledge or consent. For Monique, this wasn't just betrayal, it was
Where Oprah Winfrey and I have a problem is Oprah Winfrey called us up and she said my brother wanted to come on the show and talk about him molesting me, and he wanted to tell other parents how to look out for molesters. My brother Gerald is a charmer. So my mind thought was, because she said, do you want to come on? I said, I don't want nothing to do with that cat. I said, nigga, I know it's up to a scam, but people can change. And who am I to say he hasn't changed? It might really be different. So I don't want to get in the way of that. I just don't want nothing to do with it. She said, if you don't want me to have your brother on the show, I will cancel the show. No show will happen. But I wanted to call you up to see how you felt first. When I hung up that phone, brother, I looked at my husband and I said, that bitch is all right with me. That's a real.
She kept it
because she didn't have to call me up. She didn't have to say my brother was coming. She could have just ran with shit that happened. I dig her for that. Now I begin to see commercials with my brother, my mother, my father, and my other brother. Now, the reason why that means so much is because in the conversation we had about my brother, we then went deeper. And we began to talk about our relationships with our mothers and our fathers. And I shared my relationship with her about my mother, as she shared hers with me, which I will never repeat because she shared it with me about her mother and father. It might be something she shared with everybody, but wanted to make me feel special. I don't know. Nonetheless, it was in our moment. I shared with her that me and my mother was not talking. I shared with her we were in a really bad place. I shared with her I was hurt and, trying to figure this thing out.
Exploitation. Monique, quote, "You had me thinking you were my sister, and you invited the people who abused me on your platform." Years later, Monique would take to the internet, naming names and calling for accountability. But even now, some see her as angry or bitter, while others see her as one of the only people willing to speak truth to power. Scent, double standards, and the silencing of black men. Then came rapper and producer 50 Cent, who echoed many of the same concerns, particularly around Oprah's focus on exposing black men. In an Instagram post, 50 Cent questioned why Oprah was choosing to highlight the alleged abuses of men like Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, and Russell Simmons, but stayed silent when it came to Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and other powerful white men. I don't understand why Oprah is going after black men. No Harvey Weinstein, no Epstein. Just us. For many, this was the beginning of a broader conversation. Is there a double standard? Has Oprah, knowingly or not, used her platform to reinforce negative stereotypes about black men while giving others a pass? Toni Braxton's interview, humiliation, or help? When you think of Toni Braxton, you think of soul, power, an unmistakable voice that defined 90s R&B, but behind the Grammys, the platinum albums, and the global success was a devastating financial collapse that shocked the world. And when Toni Braxton sat down with Oprah Winfrey in 1998 to talk about filing for bankruptcy, she expected compassion.
Right now?
100%.
100%.
100%.
I couldn't believe it because I loved her so much. I admired her and looked up to her. And she pretty much reprimanded me. I read that you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this. She says to me, I hear you have Gucci flatware. I'm Oprah Winfrey and I don't have Gucci flatware.
First of all, I didn't know Gucci made silverware.
You ain't got Gucci flatware because you didn't want to buy it. It's not because you couldn't afford it. What do you mean? And immediately, She made me feel this big, this big. That moment completely changed my career. It made people look down on me.
She expected understanding, but what she got felt more like public shaming. At the time, Toni was just 31 years old, one of the best-selling female R&B artists of the decade. And she had just filed for bankruptcy, citing unpaid royalties and a contract that left her with pennies compared to the millions her music had made. Oprah, instead of focusing on the exploitative nature of the music industry or the unfair deals young artists often fall into, turned the conversation toward Toni's spending habits. That moment became infamous. To many viewers, Oprah was painting Toni as irresponsible, a young black woman who had squandered her fortune on designer, cutlery, and lavish living. But those who knew the industry knew better. Toni wasn't broke because she was careless. She was broke because the record label system was predatory, and Toni was one of its biggest victims. Toni later said she felt blindsided, that Oprah's tone during the interview wasn't supportive. It was judgmental, even condescending. In later years, when asked about that interview, Toni didn't hold back. "She was so mean to me. It was one of the most humiliating moments of my life." And she wasn't alone in that feeling. Many fans, critics, and even fellow artists saw the Oprah interview as a betrayal, a moment where a rising black female artist came to a powerful black media figure for help and was instead publicly embarrassed. Some labeled it a sellout move, saying Oprah used the interview to sensationalize Toni's downfall instead of exposing the predatory industry practices that caused it. For Toni, the sting never really faded. More than 20 years later, she still avoids talking about that appearance. The pain is still raw, and the trust that was broken that day, never repaired, reflecting on Oprah's past interviews and media criticism. So let's ask the hard question, was Oprah in that moment protecting the industry or protecting young artists? Was she holding Toni accountable or holding her up as an example to entertain millions while ignoring the deeper injustices? And when you add this moment to her interviews with Michael Jackson, Monique, and others, a pattern begins to emerge. A pattern of questioning, not uplifting, of challenging, not championing, of using her platform to align with power, not always with the powerless. Toni Braxton's voice changed music forever, but for one painful moment, she was silenced. Not by a label executive, but by someone who looked like her. Someone she thought she could trust. Someone named Oprah. The Harvey Weinstein silence. Oprah's most deafening betrayal. Oprah Winfrey has built her brand around courage, empowerment, and speaking truth to power. But when one of the most powerful and dangerous men in Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein, was exposed for years of sexual assault, harassment, and abuse, Oprah Winfrey said almost nothing. Harvey Weinstein wasn't just another producer. He was a Hollywood kingmaker, a convicted rapist whose crimes spanned decades and involved dozens of women. He was also Oprah's friend. The silence was loud, while Oprah held explosive interviews with Michael Jackson's accusers in Leaving Neverland, while she questioned Monique's integrity, while she grilled R. Kelly, Russell Simmons, and others with hard-hitting questions. When it came to Harvey Weinstein, a man she personally knew and regularly supported publicly, she never invited his accusers onto her show. She never hosted a special. She never confronted him the way she confronted others. And she's never explained why. Instead, she offered a short, generic condemnation once the public pressure became too loud to ignore. But there was no deep dive, no emotional tell-all, no platform for victims.
Miriam Haley kept her cool, the one-time Project Runway production assistant, on the stand because she says the show's producer and Hollywood titan Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted her. Haley told her story in criminal court in 2020, and then she sued him in civil court.
He was sentenced to 20 years. So that's why they really try to discredit her, try to undermine.
Nothing like what she gave Wade Robson and James Safechuck in After Neverland, men whose stories about Michael Jackson have since been questioned, contradicted, and in some cases debunked in court. For many, this was the final straw. Oprah's moral compass, they argued, didn't point toward justice, it pointed toward convenience. She called out black men publicly, but when it came to her white, wealthy, powerful friends, she stayed quiet. The royal interview, empathy or exploitation. Now, let's talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. In 2021, Oprah scored one of the biggest interviews of the decade, a sit-down with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex following their shocking departure from the British royal family. It was historic, emotional, revealing. Meghan opened up about racism, mental health struggles, and how the royal institution failed to protect her and her son. The world was stunned, and Oprah was praised again for giving a voice to the voiceless.
My biggest concern was history repeating itself.
You've said some pretty shocking things here. Wait, hold up, wait a minute.
But behind the emotional lighting and viral sound bites, something else was going on. Many critics argued that this was not about helping Meghan or Harry. This was about Oprah owning the moment. The interview wasn't aired on her network. It was sold to CBS for $7 to $9 million. It didn't air on OWN, Oprah's own channel. It aired on primetime television, with millions of dollars in ad revenue on the line.
Unbelievably tough for the two of us, but at least we had each other. My biggest concern was history repeating itself.
I'm told the intention is not to hurt or upset anyone in the royal family. They want to be respectful, particularly to the Queen. But it is important to the couple that they finally now have a chance to put their side of their story across in their own words.
And while the issues raised were deeply serious, the tone and framing felt polished, produced, and ready for syndication. Once again, Oprah was accused of turning real trauma into entertainment. Content, trauma that she herself monetized. This wasn't a private conversation between friends. This was business. High stakes, high profit business. The pattern: who gets exposed, who gets protected. So let's look at the bigger picture. Oprah has used her platform to challenge Michael Jackson. After his death, R. Kelly. After his trial, Russell Simmons. After the industry dropped him, Monique, when she had no institutional support. Toni Braxton, when she was financially vulnerable. Sent dismissed for raising questions, but she has never done an in-depth exposé. Harvey Weinstein, her friend, Les Moonves, the former CBS CEO, Jeffrey Epstein, connected to the world's elite. Any major white figure tied to abuse or exploitation. This raises a critical question. Is Oprah truly using her influence to speak truth to power? Or is she using it to protect power and punish the powerless? The brand of Oprah. Empire built on selective empathy. At the core of all this is the Oprah brand, a billion-dollar empire built on healing, empathy, and emotional storytelling. But what happens when that empathy is selective? When the platform is only available to those whose stories won't cost her friendships or money? Many are now questioning whether Oprah's interviews are truly about justice, or just about staying on trend, in power, and at the center of the moment. Because the truth is this: if Oprah Winfrey had sat down with Harvey Weinstein's victims, if she had produced a series like After Neverland exposing him, if she had stood up against one of her own powerful peers, then maybe, just maybe, she could say she stood on the right side of history. But she didn't. So here's the question: is Oprah Winfrey still the voice of truth and empowerment we were taught to believe in? Or has her platform become a shield for the powerful and a weapon against those who have no protection? When you pick and choose who to hold accountable based on who signs your checks or stands next to you on red carpets, that's not bravery. That's not journalism. That's hypocrisy. And no amount of stage lighting, soft chairs, or tearful interviews can hide that anymore. Let us know in the comments, do you still trust Oprah, or has she shown us who she truly is? The truth is, Oprah Winfrey is one of the most powerful media figures of all time. Her influence has changed elections, launched empires, and shaped public opinion for generations. But with great power comes great responsibility, and when that power is used to elevate some voices while silencing others, when it's used to appear fair while playing favorites behind the scenes, that power becomes dangerous. Michael Jackson isn't here to defend himself. Monique was silenced for years, and voices like 50 Cent are often dismissed as angry or ungrateful.
That's Oprah.
That's Oprah. Okay.
But the questions remain. Why did Oprah turn on Michael? Why did she betray Monique's trust? And why did she humiliate Toni Braxton? And why has she seemingly targeted Black men more often than not when it comes to high-profile allegations? At the end of the day, no one is above accountability, not even Oprah Winfrey. Whether she meant to cause harm or not, the effects of her choices are undeniable. From the king of pop, to an Oscar-winning actress, to an outspoken rapper, Oprah's impact has been felt, for better or for worse. So now we ask you, is Oprah still a trusted voice of truth? Or is she part of the very machine that chews up our icons and spits them out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Be respectful, be honest. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. We'll see you soon again. Like, share, and subscribe, because this is the conversation they don't want you to have. The power of influence.